Welcome back everyone. Today we'll be beginning with the session 2 of the course Retail Marketing Strategy, and we are indeed in week 2. Now if you recollect about the last session, we had definitely discussed a lot of exciting things about how you can add value for the customers by looking at or by working towards creating a visual presentation of the customer journeys and then identifying how we can eliminate pain points or how we can actually increase pleasure for the customers with respect to enhancing value. Now, as far as this module is concerned, we'll indeed be learning about the retailing theories, which again can also be looked at from the perspective of evolution of retailing. And then we'll be looking at the role which a retailer plays in supply chain. And finally, we'll be looking at the various aspects of the retail management decision process. So considering this module, we'll be also looking at the element of extra fodder for thought, which is about firing customers, and finally learning something new. For this particular module, it is going to be A/B testing. We'll also look at the relevance of A/B testing as far as the digital retailing perspectives are concerned. I'm very sure you must have heard about, a lot of news concerning firing of employees. But again, I would ask you, have you ever heard about firing customers? So this is something new which we'll be learning today as a part of extra fodder for thought section. But you have to stay tuned for this. But for now, we'll be beginning with theories of retailing. So in this particular module, we are going to look at 5 theories of retailing. The first one is wheel retailing theory by P. McNair. Then we'll get to the retail accordion theory, which has been proposed by Stanley C. Hollander. And then we'll be looking at melting pot theory. This is also referred to as the dialectic theory of retail evolution, and it has been proposed by Thomas J. and Bruce Walker. And finally, we'll be looking at the concentric zone theory, which has been proposed by William B. Apart from that, we'll be finally looking at the natural selection theory. But if you look at on the slide, I have not put the details of the author of the natural selection theory. So this is one thing which I would urge you to find out. You can also treat it as a part of your homework, and you can definitely post your messages in the forum, and then we'll be definitely discussing about it. Now if you get to the wheel retailing theory, this theory certainly explains the evolution of retail formats over time, and this was proposed by Malcolm P. McNair in 1958. Now, what this theory actually proposes is whenever you have a retailer who is entering into the market for the first time, so their objective is always going to be about being low cost, which means they'll try to keep the operations very low key or very minimal because they want to keep the cost of the products for the consumers very low. And on similar lines, they are also going to provide limited service and amenities because the objective is to control the cost. Now, as and when this business gets more established and it begins to grow, they'll start offering you more of variety and assortment of the products and more of service and amenities, which eventually also indicates that the prices which they are charging are also going to be increased. Now, you might be wondering why we call it a wheel of retailing. Simply because now the retailer who eventually entered into the market and was offering products at low prices and later on started offering more of service and amenities and started charging higher prices is now being challenged by a low price retailer. And now this particular retailer who has actually achieved an established stage need to compete with the retailers who are now offering low prices and even had to figure out ways of kind of holding their position in the market. That's why this is called as wheel of retailing, because many times the retailers who cannot walk hand on hand with the technology are eventually going to be replaced by the new low cost retailers. I really hope now you are able to understand why we call it wheel of retailing. Now, other researchers have tried to explain this particular theory by using this analogy by proposing the phases of entry, growth, maturity, and decline. Now, the entry phase for a retailer precisely indicates that they are trying to penetrate into new markets, and in order to penetrate into new markets, their focus is entirely going to be on offering low prices, keeping low margins, and the customer awareness is definitely going to be low. But they'll also focus on rationalizing operations because they want to keep the cost to the minimum. So the whole idea of this phase can be looked at from the essence of the fact that the value to the customers is offered by keeping low prices. Now once this retailer has passed the entry phase, they get to the phase of growth, which means they seek to expand by offering new product categories and services to the customers. They might also think of opening new stores in the city, which is again going to increase their cost, but might also give a huge pump to their revenues. And definitely the margins are going to be higher and growth in sales can also be seen. As far as this phase is concerned, a retailer is also more likely to earn a reputation of its own. But particularly in this phase, the sales of the retailer will definitely start increasing. Now, then he eventually gets to the maturity stage where sales reach their maximum and they even get flat. Because as far as this phase is concerned, the retailer operates in full capacity. They have a steady customer base. They definitely have a robust infrastructure and capabilities as well to offer best of services to the customers. Particularly in this phase, you might have new customers coming in, but you might have some customers leaving also to another competitors, and this attrition is definitely set off by the new customers who join you. And as far as this phase is concerned, retailers might also be thinking of making a lot of investments. So high liabilities as far as investment and ongoing cost are concerned are also seen, and in this case the focus is definitely going to be on increasing satisfaction and pushing the loyalty of the customers. Or in other words, we can say specifically during the maturity stage, as you get on the end tail, the focus precisely gets on retaining the existing customers, and that's why we talk about pushing more of loyalty so that they stay with you. And finally you get to the decline stage where the retailer becomes vulnerable to the low cost operations, and then again he is competing with the new players who are now offering products at very competitive prices, maybe by using new technology. Then again precisely it becomes a wheel of retailing where we see the risk of the players who have established themselves are being replaced by the new entrants who are actually offering products at low cost prices where the existing established retailer actually started. So this was all about wheel of retailing, how a retailer who gets into the market offers low prices, then when he expands and offers more of services, they increase the price, and finally as they move further they are challenged by the new low cost retailers, and sustaining position during those times definitely gets very difficult. So another theory which we are going to understand in this particular module is retailing accordion theory. In order to understand this, I would urge you to go and Google about accordion, and it is definitely going to be self-explanatory how this theory actually functions. Now, as far as this theory is concerned, it also says that whenever there is a retailer who enters the market, its operations are definitely going to be like a niche retailer, which means they are only going to have a very limited product line, and they'll also be offering very limited services, which in ways can also be aligned with the wheel of retailing theory. And likewise, when they expand their services, they will not only attract more customers and their revenue will increase, but in a way they'll also start charging more of prices to the customers. But what differentiates this particular theory from the wheel of retailing is the fact that it basically brings flexibility of a retailer at the fulcrum. What they are trying to say is that during economic downturns or when there are changes in consumer behavior, let's say preferences, taste and preferences of consumer change, or there is a change in technology, then the retailer should be flexible to that and should be smart enough to adjust with respect to controlling the production or decreasing the production of the products which they can foresee that the consumers are no longer going to buy. So they need to kind of have a system which can be called as a marketing intelligence system to understand when they should contract their operations, because this eventually can also lead to closing of stores, reducing product offerings, and definitely cutting back on services to bring down the cost and at least survive in the market. On the other way around, this also indicates that during economic downturns, a retailer should only focus on their competencies, which means they should only be doing the task which they are best at so that they can survive the economic storms. Otherwise, whenever there is, let's say, prosperity in the markets, then such retailers also look towards expanding their operations and work towards capturing more of markets by offering the best quality products and the best of services. So I hope you got the differentiation as far as the wheel of retailing is concerned and the retail accordion theory is concerned. Now, as we move further, we'll be definitely understanding the dialectic theory of retail evolution. This is also called as a melting pot theory and was proposed by Thomas J. and Bruce Walker. Now, what this theory suggests is that a retail businesses progresses through a series of opposing forces or contradictions that shape their evolution. What they are trying to say is whenever a retail business begins, it is more going to be a thesis, which means it will have its own dominant way of doing business. But later on, it will be challenged by the retailers who will be entering the market with better technologies and with new ways of doing business, and that is precisely called as antithesis. Now, as the time progresses, these opposing forces will lead to a synthesis in the sense like the new business player is definitely going to be a mixture of thesis and antithesis, which means it will combine the best of both the worlds, whether it is a thesis or the dominant way of business which operated earlier or how the technology is changing, they'll definitely bring the best combination of that. I'll give you an example to make you understand this. Let's say earlier you had offline retailing, right? When people were going to physical stores and were buying products and services. Then came online retailing, which gives you the heightened convenience of ordering products online, and that too whenever you want. Whether you want to order products at 6 a.m. in the morning, that also you can do, and if you want to order products at 10 p.m. in the night, that also you can do. Now, offline shopping in a way can be seen as a thesis, online shopping can be seen as a antithesis. But what comes as the evolution happens is click and collect strategies, which means you can do your orders online, but you can go to the physical store and collect your products. So this in a way gives you best of both the worlds. While you are enjoying the convenience of placing orders online, but you are also enjoying the benefits that only a physical store provides, like immediate gratification, which means you are going and picking up the products on the same day itself, or let's say even after an hour or something, as far as the terms of your order placement are concerned. Now, the another theory which we are going to learn as a part of this module is concentric zone theory, and this was proposed by Ernest Burgess in 1925. Now, as far as this theory is concerned, this basically looks at the organization of a city into a series of concentric zones, and their characteristics are definitely looked at from the perspectives of the different land uses, population densities, and social and economic characteristics. And this is how this theory further bifurcates a city into 5 different zones. So the first one is central business district, which is considered as the innermost zone and also looked at from the perspective of commercial and economic hub of the city. Area is typically characterized by high population density and high land values. So this in ways also indicates that if you want to own a retail store in this particular area, that the rent is definitely going to be very higher, because this is something which is more like a central heart of the city where you have a lot of people commuting or coming for shopping, or you might also see other prominent or popular big retail establishment in the central business district, right? Then when you get to inner city, this is considered as the second zone and is surrounded by the central business district, and this is typically looked at from the perspective of older buildings, lower income groups, and higher crime rates. So in this case, you might not see much of popular retail establishments or branded retail establishments coming in, but you might see a lot of unorganized retailers particularly operating in such areas. Then when you get to outer city, what you see is a newer suburban style development and a lot of middle class populations. Now this precisely also happens because a lot of people start living in such residential areas, specifically middle class population, because of the low rent which this particular area provides. And then you get to the suburbs, which are residential areas located further from the city and are characterized by single family homes and a higher standard of living. Now the dots concerning the residential areas available at a lower rent can also be aligned with suburb areas. In today in various cities, we also see a lot of builders kind of establishing affordable homes in suburb areas, just because of the fact that the rates of the land are less there and they are able to offer property or residential houses to the customers at least some reduced pricing as far as the central part of the cities are concerned. But usually in such areas, you might only see factory outlets or discount stores. Let's say you might find Gathalon in suburbs, and that is precisely because it requires a huge space which is only available in suburbs. And the other thing is, it also helps them to reduce a lot of expenditures as far as the rent and other expenses are concerned. And finally, you get to rural and urban fringe, which is the outermost zone of the city and lies on the rural urban fringe, which means it is more of an area where the urban area might end and the rural end might start. right? Or it is more of an intersection point for them. So as far as this is concerned, you might not see a lot of customers visiting to the stores who are basically developed in these areas, and precisely in such cases also you will see only a lot of unorganized retailers setting up their retailers. Now the last theory which we are going to discuss as a part of this module is natural selection theory. This theory is also referred to as adaptive behavioral model. Now, what this theory actually postulates is the fact that only the fittest retailers are going to survive in the market, which means only those retailers will survive who have the capability and ability to adapt to the changing environmental facets. Like, let's say, if they are able to walk hand in hand with changing consumer preferences, right? Or if they are able to kind of face the economic disturbances which happens in the country, or if they are able to take account of the fact how competitive pressures are emerging and they also need to change concerning those, or even how the social and cultural fabric of the country or a nation or the area in which they are operating is changing. So the whole idea of this particular theory is understanding the fact that only the fittest is going to survive. In case a retailer is not able to adapt to the changing situations concerning the consumer preferences, consumer likings, or how the economy is changing. Let's say if there is economic downturn, it becomes very important for a marketer and a retailer to offer products which lie in the affordability of the customers during those events. Or let's say if there is a new competitor who has entered into the market with new technology, then how you are going to face that, or what is the strategy that you actually execute to reply to that competitor and still retain your customer segments. And again, how the social and cultural facets are changing in the broader dynamics of a nation. So again, I would sum up, only the fittest retailer or who can keep up with the changing times is going to survive. Now we finally get to the most exciting element of this module, which is extra food for thought. I've already said it a couple of times that you might have not heard about the concept of firing customers, but you must have definitely heard about firing employees, right? But there are a few examples of companies that have fired customers also, and one such company is Sprint. So what happened with Sprint was they had a major chunk of customers who were calling to the helpline a couple of times, rather more number of times than the company could handle, and that too maybe for a lot of unnecessary reasons, or which could be considered as counterproductive. So the Sprint finally decided to fire those customers. As you can see in the news or the Bloomberg snippet, it clearly says Sprint to customers, you are fired. Sprint just kicked out a bunch of its own customers. Their offense, calling Sprint's customer service a lot. Right. Another way of looking at this is definitely a very important lesson which we retailers need to learn, and that is, see, you definitely need to segregate your customers into profitable and non-profitable customers. If you keep on serving your non-profitable customers, that is definitely not going to work. They are neither going to contribute to your profits and will also keep escalating the cost as and when you serve them. So the solution doesn't lies in simply firing them. The best way is to look at alternative strategies, how things can be resolved. Like one way could be you can look at alternative ways of, you know, offering services to them. Like in this case, one possible solution could have been the Sprint could have thought of started charging for calls. If like after 3 calls you could be charged, or let's say after 5 calls you could be charged. So in this case, that would have come across as one of the good solutions. But in other cases, when you have realized that this is not going to work, you can definitely have a way out of figuring out how such customers can be dealt with. See, even if you connect the dots of that particular passbook automated machine, that also indicates that it is a strategy to basically deal with customers who were coming to branch quite often but were not contributing to the profitability. Rather, they were taking away a lot of the opportunity cost in terms of time of the officers, which could have been spent on customers, who could have been profitable for a bank. So this is the letter which was sent by the Sprint Nextel to its customers. Our records indicate that over the past year, we have received frequent calls from you regarding your billing or other general account information. While we have worked to resolve your issues and questions to the best of our ability, the number of inquiries you have made to us during this time had led us to determine that we are unable to meet your current wireless needs. Therefore, after careful consideration, the decision has been made to terminate your wireless service agreement effective from July 30, 2007. This will allow you to pursue and engage with another wireless carrier. So, which means that they also gave them some time so that they can figure out and find out another service provider which could be open to providing services to them. They further write, we understand that having to switch to another wireless carrier may be an inconvenience, and we want to do everything possible to help you during this transition. So a credit has been applied to your account to bring your current balance to zero. In addition, will not require you to pay an early termination fee, and you are free to transfer or port your number to another non-Sprint Nextel carrier. You will, however, need to initiate the transfer of your number with the carrier of your choice before July 30, 2007, as the number will no longer be available as of date. Now, this definitely can be considered as a very brave move by the Sprint Nextel. See, in a long run, it is definitely going to be futile if you keep on serving customers who are not being profitable for you but are only escalating your cost, as I just repeated. But the solution doesn't lies in straight away firing. The best way is to figure out alternative strategies, how this can be controlled or how you can decrease the cost for such customers and still keep them satisfied. But if there is no solution, then companies indeed are forced to take such brave steps. And as far as this particular case of Sprint is concerned, it was all over the news at that time. You can also look at this snippet by Retail Wire, which again mentions Sprint fires customers. Then the next one is by Senate, which also says Sprint breaks up with high maintenance customers. So as far as this is concerned, I would definitely urge you to go back and Google more about it. And trust me, this is definitely going to be very knowledge enriching for you. Now finally we get to another exciting element, which is learning something new, and in this particular module we'll be learning about A/B testing. Now A/B testing is also known as split testing. It is basically used as a mechanism to check which variations of campaign perform better. Now you might be wondering how this works. I'll explain you this with an example of an email. Let's say you want to send email to your prospective customers, and this email could be related to pitching out to them for buying your electric vehicle. Like, we'll use subject line to understand A/B testing. Now one subject line could be, if you want to increase your fuel bills by 50%, open this mail. Other subject line could be an exciting electric vehicle that helps you save. Now we'll send, let's say we might decide to send 1000 mails to a sample group, and then we can see which subject line basically emerges as more catchy and stimulates people to open that mail. Now this is an example of A/B testing, where we are trying to test which subject line is much more effective and efficacious with respect to making sure that more people open mails. So this is one very small facet of A/B testing which I have discussed. This can also be done with respect to other allied factors as far as digital marketing is concerned. This can also be done with respect to figuring out which product features customers want and which they don't want. This can also be done with respect to figuring out which shape of the product is more appealing to the customers. So even in this case, I would appeal you to go and read more about A/B testing, and definitely concerning digital marketing, A/B testing is very popular. So as far as this module is concerned, I thank you for now, and when we'll be moving in next session, we'll be definitely learning a lot more exciting things. So wishing you a good day as of now, and looking forward to meeting you soon in the session 3. Thank you.